And of course, with the obligatory look up at the rising 1 Bloor West. And welcome to the intersection of Yonge and Bloor, one of the busiest in the city. It's also a magnet for this sort of protest. And hey there, today is Friday, September 5th. It is 4:46 p.m. and it is a rather windy 19 degrees Celsius. Did I just lie to you?
Yes.
I think I did. It's actually 22 degrees Celsius. And as you can see by the ground, it was pouring rain a few minutes ago. I was on the subway making my way down from Midtown. And right around Rosedale Station, where the train goes outside, it was pouring quite heavily. And I thought, uh-oh, I don't have an umbrella on me and I want to get a walk in and then a live stream and hopefully wrap up in time to catch the Blue Jays. We've got an important game versus the Yankees tonight. That will be starting at 7:07. But for this one, I'll be heading east on Bloor Street here, over to Ted Rogers Way, and then it'll be south. And that turns into Jarvis Street, and I think I'll head south down to Front Street, right where the St. Lawrence Market is. And across the street is where the Bay used to be. That location opened in 1974 and it closed a few years ago. But recently a W Hotel has opened up. And it's connected to Bloor Yonge Station. And this is the stretch of sidewalk where I think about 2 years ago I caught a motorist just casually driving along the sidewalk. And I uploaded that as a YouTube short and a TikTok. And that sure got a lot of views. There's where a pub used to be. They are expanding the capacity at Bloor Yonge Station. And that plot had to be expropriated. So this one's going to take place entirely on the east side of downtown. So first up here is Church Street. Ted Rogers Way, which becomes Jarvis, will be the next major north-south street, and then I'll head south. Kind of dig the lighting shortly after a rainfall. And in terms of what's going on in this city this weekend, the Toronto International Film Festival is taking place down on King Street. I recorded opening day of that yesterday. And I'll probably stream over that way right after this. And I think up around Royal York Station, there There's a taste of the Kingsway Street Festival. And another street festival over on Parliament Street through Cabbagetown. So I'll see if I can check out one or both of those later this weekend. There's the Manufacturer's Life office tower across the street. That's a designated heritage building. And right across the street is another one, St. Paul's.
Exactly.
So one rather beautiful building across from another. That's St. Paul's Anglican Church. I've always liked this little stretch of Bloor Street between Yonge and Ted Rogers Way. I guess Sherburne, if you want to push it. Wonder what's going on with that Finn McCool's. Looks like it might have shut down. There we go, Ted Rogers Way. Named after the media mogul Ted Rogers, and the Rogers headquarters is right across the street. Not exactly my favorite company. I do use them as my primary streaming provider. When I do my live streams, I use Rogers. I also connect it to Bell. And I've got Freedom Mobile as a third carrier. But really, I have no loyalty. Whenever there's a better deal with a network that performs as good, I'm always willing to switch it up. This was originally named Jarvis Street, but it was renamed to Ted Rogers Way back in 2009. That office tower has a very suburban feel to it. Seems a little off being located in downtown. And unfortunately, they relocated some of their TV studios from Dundas Square up to this location. And this is Charles Street East, where it terminates. And that is the foot of Mount Pleasant Road. That'll lead you all the way north of Lawrence. And there's never really a whole lot of pedestrian activity on this stretch of Jarvis. But this area is known as Upper Jarvis. That's bound by Bloor to the north, Wellesley to the south, which we'll be crossing after a few blocks. Jarvis to the west, and over to the east, Sherburne Street. There's the Massey House. And once upon a time, this is where the wealthy in the city, or at least a lot of them, lived. There's a lot of really old Victorian style mansions in the area. There's one that's been incorporated into the Casey House. That's a center for people living with AIDS and HIV. The street was named after Samuel Jarvis, as well as his father, William Jarvis. He was the provincial secretary, I think from around 1792 to 1817, so he had a pretty long run. But there's been a lot of controversy regarding Henry Dundas, a well-known abolitionist who was very much opposed to slavery, but that didn't stop the city from renaming Dundas Square and trying to rename Dundas Street. A remarkable waste of money. But the Jarvis family was actually known to have a negative connection to enslavement. So I'm not sure where the calls are to rename Jarvis Street. I guess they'll come in due time. I'm not a fan of washing away history. That was a very different time. There's a lot of these beautiful old houses here. And perhaps the most famous one is across the street, now home to the Keg Mansion. That one on the right, the Jarvis Mansion, that was once owned by a Gooderham family member. They're behind the distillery district and the Gooderham and Worts distillery, as well as the Flatiron building. Got a little distracted by that guy. There's the Keg Mansion. And And this is Wellesley Street. There's the Jarvis Collegiate Institute. That was founded back in 1807. It was originally called the Home District Grammar School. And the Keg Mansion over there was built in 1867. We can't really see it that well from here. But later served as part of the University of Toronto. After being home to the Massey family. And in 1976 it was folded into the Keg franchise. That's a pretty good steak chain of restaurants. There's the Sick Kids Center for Community Mental Health. In the 50s and 60s, this area was undergoing quite the transformation. A lot of those grand old homes were no longer homes to the wealthy, and a lot of mid-rise apartment buildings went up. And there were some lower income neighborhoods just east of here popping up, namely St. Jamestown and Regent Park. And that sun looking west is kind of brutal. This is Maitland Street, so that'll lead you over to pretty much the heart of the Church Wellesley Village, which is just west of here. Back in the 1800s, this was actually a grand boulevard. There's a grassy median in the middle where even horse racing took place. And many of these old Victorian mansions do have heritage status. A lot of them will have plaques in front of them. There's the Betty Oliphant Theatre. The Shoe Room, part of Canada's National Ballet School. So there's a performance space and school on that property. Several properties that have been linked together. I had a friend who rented a unit in that building right there once upon a time. He had a bachelor unit and he was about midway down the building, no balcony, and you're so close to your neighbor, he barely had any daylight. He said he couldn't get out of there fast enough. the Margaret McCain Academy building. Look how beautiful that is. One of these buildings was the original home of Havergal College. In fact, I think it was this one. Just based on the appearance. That's a very upscale private girls' school on Avenue Road, just south of Lawrence. Oh, we just missed a supercar rolling by. There's some much more modern housing. And you'll notice there's this flex lane in the middle, which based on, or depending on the time of day, changes directions. I think from around 3:45 to 6:30. It's a northbound lane. And at all other times it's southbound. There's a 5-minute window when it's being changed over where that little X appears on both sides and you can't use it in either direction. And we've made it to Carlton. Since we have the light, let's cross here. Maple Leaf Gardens is located just a few blocks in that direction over at Church. That's the Allen Gardens, big park right across the street. There's what might be the biggest mural in the city. I should know my facts on this one. I've walked by it enough times on videos and live streams. I think it's called Equilibrium. And it sits on the side of the old Primrose Hotel, which is now used by TMU for student housing. And I think that went up in 2018, and it was done by a Spanish artist. It's good to see it's maintained its color vibrancy. Oh, it says Equilibrium right there, 2018 on it. Here I am struggling to remember those details. That'll lead you into the Allen Gardens. There's a public botanical garden in there that recently reopened to the public. The Hampton Inn and Suites. That conservatory is over 100 years old, and there's a really large dog park on the other side of it. And we're coming up towards a local landmark. That's right on the northwest corner of Gerard and Jarvis. Toronto Baptist Seminary. That's the Jarvis Street Baptist Church.
But it's like why?
It was like
And there it is, the one, the only Hooker Harvey's. Back in the 70s and 80s and into the 90s. This was a well-known area for ladies of the night and that sort of activity. And that Harvey's took on that nickname. I guess we'll have to wait for the next light cycle. There's the Econo Lodge Inn and Suites. I don't know if that's reopened to the public yet, but during the pandemic, it was used to house the homeless. There's the Jarvis Street Baptist Church. And I do have memories as a kid walking through this area with my dad and brother going to Maple Leaf games. And seeing that kind of activity firsthand. I think most people in that profession have gone online these days. But the legacy lives on with that Harvey's. I think that used to be a hotel on the left, one where Rob Ford famously took refuge in. And you'll see signs that say TMU on the west side of the street. Would be the eastern boundary of the university. There's a very 60s looking Ontario Court of Justice. Cool inverted pyramid building. I always mistook as an old municipal office. And it was built as an office tower. Once home to Sears. And their warehouse was directly behind it. There's now a Metro supermarket in that building. hopefully the contractor who dug up the sidewalk is going to return it to the way it should be. There's a lot of very sloppy patchwork construction like this in the city. It's possible that they're going to have to dig it back open. Which is why maybe the sidewalk wasn't completely restored. And this is Dundas coming up. An intersection that has changed a heck of a lot in recent years. Now with major towers on 3 of the 4 corners.
Yeah, I think they're better with the wires.
What are they? Oh, yeah.
Oh, and actually,
That's what I was wondering.
and actually, that's one even.
One thing you'll notice is Jarvis really seems to lack any type of cohesive character to it. Here you have some of those nice old Victorian mansions on the north end. Actually, I think this is where that hotel was, just here on the left, that I alluded to earlier. I went as far as calling this downtown's most ugly major street. I guess ugliest would be the correct term, the superlative of ugly. It's really just a random hodgepodge of different building forms that don't really quite come together. All right, next up is Shooter Street. Then we'll be walking alongside the Moss Park Armory.
You have to post.
Maybe we'll cross back over to the west side here. It's the Tour Hotel. Stay with style in the city. It's not a bad location at all, actually. Looks like the first half is the hotel. These are probably condos. Above that area where I'm guessing that's a swimming pool halfway up. St. Mike's Hospital is just west of here. Next major street coming up to cross is Queen Street East. The Moss Park neighborhood is just east of here. It's a bit of a rough scene on that street corner. All right, have light, will cross.
I'm not working. I said, get it up your there.
Sarà lunedì, ma se uno hanno detto che sei in caso o è troppo tardi.
I'm guessing that parking lot stays are numbered over there. Looks like iPot Cannabis didn't make it. It's the Indonesian consulate right there. As we enter the St. Lawrence neighborhood. Crossing Richmond Street. Toasted bagel with ham and cheese, lettuce, tomatoes, and a medium coffee for $6. It's a Holiday Inn Express. Wow, you can really see the Sky Tower rising from here. Soon to be the tallest building in the country. At St. James Park on the southwest corner over there. Look east along Adelaide. I remember having gelato here before. This is King Street, and once upon a time this was the heart of the city's financial district. Until it was decimated by a fire in the 1800s. And everything kind of shifted a little bit west to where it is now. And that is the St. Lawrence Hall, built back in 1850. I think you would call that a Renaissance revival style. That's been designated a National Historic Site. I think they still hold events and weddings and that sort of thing up in the main ballroom. I toured through that building as part of Doors Open several years ago. I also toured the new Northern St. Lawrence Market building, which opened up earlier this year. You can find that on the channel. On the left here is a year-round Christmas market shop. I discovered one of those in Old Quebec in a recent live stream. There's the St. Lawrence Market. And that building dates back to 1803, although it opened as a market in 1902. And it was once home to City Hall. You can see that sort of building cut out in the front. And you know what? I want to get my live stream going. Because of that rain earlier, I waited a little bit when I got to Union for it to let up. So I got a slightly later than I would have wanted to jump on this one. I hope you enjoyed it. Jarvis Street continues south here. Well, it becomes Lower Jarvis, so front, down to Queen's Quay at the waterfront. I hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below. If you wish to support what I do, there's links to my Patreon and YouTube channel membership down in the description. I've got an Instagram account at Johnny Strides, and there is a super thanks button appearing down below if you wish to say thanks that way. He can afford a Porsche, but he never bothered to learn how to stop before the line. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Yoink!